The voice struck me first. Profound. Gentler, similar to my husband's, yet distinct. Lucas had always possessed that unique quality. The same visage, yet an entirely distinct aura. Perhaps a distinct spirit. I suppose it possesses an allure that draws you in, compelling you to face it, even in the absence of understanding the reason behind your pull. It had been 7 long years since I last laid eyes on him. During his previous visit, he lingered for a weekend, indulged in an excess of wine, and found himself laughing boisterously at the most inopportune times. Mark perceived him as utterly draining. He captivated me utterly, even so, yet I confined that aspect of myself much like one would with perilous musings. He had returned once more, positioned at our threshold, a duffel bag in hand and a half-smile gracing your lips. Recently emerged from a divorce. Mark proposed that he could remain here for a while, until he regained his footing. Smile graced my lips. Courteous, regulated. Lucas, I spoke. Izzy, he responded. Simply that, and I lost the art of breathing. Mark has never referred to me in that way. 17 years have passed without a single occurrence. The initial days unfolded with a sense of control. We maintained our politeness. Proceed with caution. Mark continued to toil away, leaving the house before the first light of dawn and returning long after the evening meal had been served. Left Lucas and me orbiting one another like two magnets caught in a dance of uncertainty, torn between attraction and repulsion. One evening he extended an offer to assist with the cooking. Mark was absent from the house. As I sliced through the crisp orange carrots, the rhythmic sound of the knife against the cutting board filled the air. He decanted the wine. The soft strains of jazz lingered in the air while the windows misted it over, warmed by the stove's embrace. You always do that, he murmured, his gaze drifting to my hands. What should I do? Maintain tension in your shoulders as you chop, as if you are preparing yourself for an impending event. A chuckle escaped my lips. Perhaps I am. He advanced with measured intent, excessively near, and, without laying a finger on me, he remarked, You flinch as if no one has laid a hand on you in years. The knife slipped from my grasp, crashed into the sink with a resounding clatter. He remained utterly still. His eyes remained unblinking. I averted my gaze. The rhythm of my heartbeat thrums in my throat. As the night deepened, I stumbled upon a note resting on the counter. Only a single word, apologies. Yet it was not guilt that enveloped me. The sound reverberated, a distant memory, resurfacing after years of silence. My own name spoken as if it held significance. Izzy. The night was marked by rain. A gentle, unyielding rain fell against the windows, reminiscent of an unasked question lingering in the air, one we were both unprepared to confront. Mark had vanished once more, a journey that unfolds under the cloak of night. At the 11th hour in the kitchen, Lucas and I busied ourselves with the task of tidying up after dinner. This time there will be no jazz, only the gentle murmur of cascading water beyond. He extended his hand toward the glass, and in that fleeting moment his fingers grazed against mine. We stood still, caught in the moment. I remained steadfast, refusing to retreat. I remained still. He did not either. In that moment an undeniable spark filled the air. Not desire, not at this moment only. Consciousness, the sort that awakens the very nerves of your skin to life. He cleared his throat, a subtle prelude to the words that were about to follow. Shall remove the refuse. He nodded. quietly as though my voice might betray more than I intended. Eventually I discovered him in the den. The light softened, feet resting comfortably on the ottoman. As an old film flickered in shades of black and white, he raised his hands. I didn't expect to find you awake. Sleep eluded me. Will you accompany me? I certainly did. Silence enveloped us. Not during the initial hour. Not even when he extended his hand for the blanket, gently draping it over my legs. As well, the image lingers vividly in my mind's eye. A woman weeping, figure retreating into the distance, timeless tale of sorrow. His shoulder brushed against mine. I ought to have taken action, yet I refrained. In that moment, he silently pressed his forehead to mine. It was not a kiss. It was not an encounter of a physical nature. It was something far more dreadful. It was a sense of solace. I sat there inhaling and exhaling in sync with a man who resembled my husband yet felt like someone with whom I could finally let go. As the credits began to roll, silence enveloped us. He rose delicately, lifted the blanket from my form and murmured, "Good night, Izzy." Once more, "I shall reveal my name forever." Name. That evening I reclined in bed, straining to hear the sound of the step. I longed to hear him traverse the hallway, gently push the door ajar, venture into the shadows and claim what we both understood was rightfully his. Yet he did not, and somehow that restraint, his decision to hold back, only intensified my desire for him. Dawn broke, we stared clear of one another. Lucas departed at dawn. Lingered in bed, finding slumber for far too long. As I descended, I found the kitchen immaculate. Not one dish. There was not a single trace of him to be found. Mark sent a text message. Flight has been delayed. He would return by the time the sun dipped below the horizon. I ought to have experienced a sense of relief. Yet all that surged within me was a wave of panic. Throughout the day, the resonance of Lucas's voice lingered in my mind. The heaviness of his head resting upon mine. The manner in which he breathed my name, as though it were a cherished secret. The evening wore on. I found myself at the end of my tether. I rapped gently on his door. He remained silent, yet it remained ajar. He perched on the edge of the bed, elbows resting on his knees, his eyes heavy with fatigue. It was as though he had not found rest either. "We need to have a conversation," I remarked. He inclined his head in acknowledgement. "Am not. I find no pride in the current situation. Feel the same way." Gazes were fixed upon the ground. The stillness that enveloped us resonated more profoundly than any sound within the walls of the house. "Perhaps it's time to pause," I murmured. His jaw tightened. He kept his gaze fixed downward. "Believe you have a point." We pressed on undeterred. On that fateful night, the storm returned with a vengeance. Once again the thunder rolls, the gusts that rattled the panes. As I reclined in bed, my heart raced with fervor. Each breath of wind carried an ominous message. Each shadow stands, as a consequence, poised to reveal itself. Then came 3 gentle raps. The door creaked open beneath my touch. He remained there, drenched. Strands of hair clung to his forehead. "Understand?" we mentioned. He started. Drew him closer. "Silence speaks volumes. There are no explanations needed." We didn't unite as mere strangers swept away by desire. We embraced each other with a fervor that spoke of a deep, unquenchable longing, as if we had been deprived for far too long. His hands held a sacred respect. My experiences were filled with urgency and longing. We held on to one another as if we were woven from the threads of memory, regret, and forgiveness. In the aftermath, I found myself resting upon his chest, attuned to the rhythmic patter of the rain and the gentle ebb of his breath. He gently swept my hair aside, gazed down at me, and murmured, "I've loved you since the very first moment you spoke my name." Tears threatened to spill from my eyes, not due to any wrongdoing, yet it resonated as the most genuine expression I had encountered in years. Slumber eluded us. The morning remained unspoken between. For certain nights the dawn is a cruel adversary. The dawn arrived heavy with remorse. I took 2 showers, polished relentlessly until my skin ached as though steaming water could erase the contours of his hands, the flavor of his breath. When I descended, Lucas had already vanished once more. Yet this time he departed with something far more enduring than mere words on a page. The timepiece he wore, abandoned upon my nightstand, a quiet, radiant revelation. I gazed at it intently. An absurdly masculine notion, obsidian-hued leather, glass marked by scratches, such an item. That mark would never dawn, exhausted, beyond measure, excessively intimate. Grasped it, intending merely to conceal. Yet, as soon as my fingers wrapped around the strap, the door creaked open. Mark arrived home earlier than usual. He lingered in the foyer, his suit still crisp, the suitcase just crossing the threshold. His eyes bore the weight of weary journeys, his lips pressed together. "Hello," I murmured, my voice barely above a whisper. He remained expressionless. They merely stepped forward, brushed their lips against my cheek in a fleeting gesture, and then glided toward the bedroom. He stood still, caught in a moment of sheer disbelief. The watch lingered in my grasp. I truly dashed down the corridor, slipping into the guest room, shoving it into the depths of a drawer, like a rebellious youth concealing forbidden treasures. Yet the moment had passed. As I pivoted, I found him poised in the doorway, gazing beyond my presence, gazing into the open drawer. "That belongs to him," he remarked. I remained silent. He advanced with measured intent. He grasped the watch, flipped it as if it were a vital piece of evidence in a gripping whodunit. What was it doing in here? Yet I remained silent. Once more silence enveloped the space. The heavy, oppressive quiet enveloped the space. "Then, he's always desired what I possessed. That's hardly surprising," I recoiled. His voice carried a serene quality, excessively tranquil. "But what about you?" he inquired. "I never imagined you would desire him as well." In an instant he stepped away, leaving everything behind. On that fateful night, Mark failed to return home. Indeed, Lucas took action. I revealed it all to him. What Mark expressed, the way he gazed at me, I felt as though I was nothing but dirt, as if I didn't merit the energy it would take to raise a voice. Lucas settled next to me on the bed, grasped my hand gently, and murmured, "Perhaps it's time we cease our concealment." I yearned to place my trust in him. I longed to embrace any notion that could lift the heavy burden resting upon my chest. "Perhaps," I suggested, "we've already suffered losses greater than we realize." Lucas lingered for an additional 3 days. We refrained from making contact not a single time. Our conversation unfolded in fragments of thought. We danced around the truth as if it were a flickering flame. We attempted to become something different, perhaps friends, roommates, anything but the essence of what we had turned into. Mark never returned. Not to the residence. Not in my view. He dispatched a lawyer in his stead, avoiding conflict. No doors were slammed, merely a contract. Chilling, pristine, conclusive. It was meant to remain within the confines of a house. He would choose the condo in the city. He desired nothing more. Not the porcelain, not the images, not even the canine companion. His choice had been made. Lucas observed as I put pen to paper, sealing the agreement with stroke. His words were few. Gently cradled my wrist once I had completed the task. You need not walk this path in solitude, he remarked. Cry of frustration bubbled within me, yearning for release for the reason that he lacked comprehension. Loneliness had been my companion long before the affair began, long before his time. That is the reason it occurred. Not that my heart had never known love for Mark. He has lost the ability to truly perceive me. What about Lucas? He perceived me with an unsettling clarity. I requested that Lucas depart the following morning. His gaze was fixed upon me. Silence, wounded yet not taken back. Could it have all been a blunder? He inquired. I gently shook my head. Well, it was indeed real. Thus it must come to a close. Half a year has passed. Documents have been completed. The house holds a stillness that surpasses my expectations. My phone remains silent most of the time. The mailbox is filled predominantly with bills. Yet every few days I catch myself gazing into the drawer, the very one that once held the Since that time Lucas has remained absent from my sight. Yet he dispatches postcards from cities I have yet to explore. One sentence per line, perpetually concluding in the same manner. I continue to encounter your essence in the faces of unfamiliar souls. Times I find myself pondering the alternate paths I might have taken had I made different choices. Yet, thought crosses my mind. Certain affections are not meant to endure the harsh light of day. Some love exists solely in the gaps between names, in the fleeting moments between breaths, in the silhouette of another's visage. Certain tales one does not instruct them to seek understanding. You urge them to release their grip at last.